Since I was a kid, I've been fascinated by stories. Not just the what, but the how. How lives change. How moments unfold. I realize the answers, they aren't always in books, but they're with people too. That's why we started this show, to uncover the extraordinary in the everyday, one story at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to ACTV Storytellers. This is a show where we chronicle the lives of fellow Anderson Countyans who have made a positive and lasting impact in our community and beyond. This is our 9th episode, and for our September show, we would like to welcome to the Storyteller stage Mr. Charles McRae, one of the greatest Clinton Dragons of all time, a VFL, and a 6-year NFL veteran and business leader. Charles, welcome back to Anderson County and welcome to Storytellers.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Darren.
Listen, I am so excited because I knew you were going to be a good guest when I saw your jersey retired just a couple weeks ago, and all the pictures that you made with everybody, they all looked like your children because they were so much shorter than you. That had to be a big honor for you.
It was a very big honor. Not something I was really expecting, and Coach called me up and wanted to make this happen, and I was real excited about it, obviously. And it was great to be able to have some of my kids there to share it, and once again, fantastic honor. Not something you would ever think about when you're actually playing. In high school, you just never would think that's where this is going to end up, and something that's been, I think, rarely done.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the most interesting things that I found when I was doing some research on you is. In the history of Anderson County schools, Anderson County High School, Clinton High School, we have had some players that have been drafted in Major League Baseball that played minor league ball, and we've had some people that have been drafted. But you're the only person from either school that has been drafted in either NFL, MLB, or NBA, and made a career. I mean, made it to that level. That's something because the school's been around for a while.
The school's been around a very long time. I'm really surprised that that's the case. We've had a lot of great athletes that have come through. Larry Sievers, of course, and many others. It's amazing that others haven't been able to get there and make that happen. Obviously, the NBA is a really small. That's a pretty small club to be in.
Yeah, 14. Well, they have 14 guys on the roster, I believe.
It's a pretty small club.
Well, let's jump into your early story. So you weren't originally from Clinton. You weren't originally from Tennessee. You were from Michigan.
Yeah, don't I sound like I'm from Michigan?
You don't have the twang that a lot of folks do around here. So talk about when you came to Clinton and what brought you here and when that went down.
Yeah, so my dad was career Air Force, and he retired out of Oscoda, Michigan, which was his last duty station, which was where I was born. And my full sister and I are 15 and a half years apart. So there was a pretty long gap between the two of us, and it's just the two of us. But they moved. He had bought some land down in southern Michigan, had moved there. And my uncle Pete lived in Clinton, had lived in Clinton since the 50s, and was a contractor here locally. And Dad got a job as a truck driver based with Colonial Refrigerated Transport based out of West Knoxville. One thing led to another. Dad was here in town, probably had a couple of beers with Uncle Pete. They bought a piece of property out on Llewellyn Road, just outside of the city, and built a house, and we moved into it. It was the only home my parents ever owned. They had never.
Was the one they built?
Was the only house they ever lived in.
Wow. So, as you alluded to, was there any kind of culture shock from moving from Michigan to Tennessee?
There was a lot. I mean, I think it's hard for anybody that's relocating from around the country, especially into when you're relocating with the military. I didn't do that, part of my growing up, but when you're relocating with the military, everybody's relocating. Like you go into a new school, it's like, yeah, so is everybody else in the new school. I came into, the city schools here and didn't know anybody, had no friends. It was pretty hard, and I didn't talk like everybody else, and I was, enormous. And so That makes you stand out. It makes it a little more difficult and
Hard to be discreet.
hard to be. Yeah, you can't get away with anything. You have to be good because everybody knows who did it if you did it.
Right. So, as you alluded to, you were a big kid. So, understandably, you were interested in football. However, you were telling me when we were talking that before that wasn't always an asset when you're because they always want you to play up.
Well, and when you're really big, and I've had this problem with two of my sons as well who are large for their age. Everybody expects more of you. They think you're 2 years or 3 years older than you are. And with Clinton Optimist football they had here at the time, there was a weight limit, and the league that my son plays in now, the weight limit is if you're more than 151 pounds, you have to play on the line. You have a stripe on your head, you can't carry the ball or play linebacker or anything like that. Okay, fine. I had to play up 2 levels. So when I was 8, I was playing with the 11, I think it was 11, 12-year-old team. And that's, I was as big as those kids. I was stripping nearly naked to make the weight as it was, but I wasn't mentally ready for that. Mm-hmm. I wasn't physically ready for that. And it didn't go well. And of course, every kid of that age is going to be really kind to the little kid that, the young one that's big. No, they were mean. They're terrible to me. It was awful.
You've never been a little kid.
Well, but the younger one, right?
Right.
And so, I did not enjoy it. I played it a couple of years, but and the problem was the next year the last year I came back for the Optimist League, there wasn't a league for me anymore. I was above the highest weight limit for the league they had. I would have to play for the junior high school, which, obviously wasn't going to happen at like 10.
Right.
So that was the end of football for a while.
So when you were younger, were you self-conscious about your size, being so much bigger than your classmates and so much bigger than your peers?
I don't think I was that self-conscious about it. It's funny. Lee Smith, who played a dozen years in NFL and has a workout facility over in Solway, he was working with my son Henry, and his comment was, "Is Henry is a baby giraffe." Right, it just hasn't quite grown into all the arms and legs and stuff. That was me. Like I was not your athlete. I wasn't particularly athletic, at that age, in that grade school, early junior high school age. I wasn't the athletic one.
Well, it's funny because, and I don't want to jump ahead, but I talked to some of your former coaches, and to a person, they told me, even though you reached your highest success in football, they told me that they felt like when you played basketball, that really helps you because it helps you with your hand-eye coordination, and it helps you kind of get used to those arms and legs.
It's reps. I mean, and I think it's great for kids to do multiple sports. It's really hard, to just focus in on one thing and do one thing only. You overtrain certain muscles. There's imbalances and so forth. So I was fortunate to play football and basketball, and with Coach Lockhart and the team, and had we had a lot of success with them, and I think it was very good for me conditioning wise, learning how to jump, learn how to move, because there's a lot of commonality in offensive line play and shuffling and moving your feet with basketball. Well,
I'm gonna ask this question, and I asked you this when we talked on the phone. Maybe you can have some clarification, because whatever you said, your coaches they weren't smart enough to understand it. So I'm going to ask you and see if you can. So as the story goes, you were in basketball practice, and it was Coach Taylor and Coach Owens maybe was running. Maybe those were the.
It may have been Owens. I don't think it was Owens. Taylor maybe.
Okay.
Gann.
Okay.
Gann.
Okay. And you guys were running some defensive plays, and apparently you weren't running them. The team wasn't running them to the liking. And Coach Taylor, Coach Gann, somebody stopped and said, I guess you were the spokesperson, and they said, "Charles, do you understand what we're asking you to do?" And your response was something about, "Yes, Coach, it's nothing but 2 congruent triangles that are moving in some sort of," and Coach Taylor said, "Neither one of us really understood what Charles says, so we just said, okay, is there any truth to that?
I don't really remember it. I mean, we definitely. I mean, every basketball team runs a triangle offense. And that's what we were running. And I'm assuming it was the high post pick and roll, but that's one I was lost into the shadows for me.
Well, Coach Taylor told me, he said, I never really had a practice before where a high school student responded in such a way that none of the coaches knew what he was talking about, but he seemed confident about it. So we went on thinking he understood.
Well,
so
at least I could fool him.
So when did you start gravitating towards sports? I mean, it was difficult for you when you were younger. Was it high school or was there some other motivating fact for you?
I didn't have, there wasn't a lot to do. We lived out away from the city a little ways. So, it was hunting and fishing, that was, running through the woods and, cutting down trees and whatnot. It was a lot of my spare time. Eventually that gets old. It wasn't able to sit there on my iPad and play or watch YouTube or surf the internet.
Yeah.
Those things, we didn't have those things. I had a outdated set of World Book Encyclopedia. But it really was in junior high school, in ninth grade, where I got into football and wanted to start playing sports, and then grew so much between ninth and 10th grade that more of an asset on the basketball team, even though I never was a quote unquote basketball player in high school. I was able, I was big and tall, and I could, defend people. So became valuable there. So that's really kind of how I got into it.
Well, what your coaches told me was especially about basketball, was they remembered you being, one, a hard worker, and two, a developer, meaning that when you started, as you said, you didn't have a lot of it, but by the time you got to be a senior, they described you as a very key member defensively, taking up space, rebound, being a presence in the paint, and how critical you were to the success of the team by the time you got to your senior year in high school. How much you developed in basketball.
No, I appreciate that. I think Coach Lockhart was a excellent coach. I mean, he coached here for 40 years.
Oh yeah. Long time.
He was a fantastic basketball coach, and we had some really great teams. Had some, fantastic players. Willis, McGee, Dean, Chris Dean, Scott Morrow. Some great basketball players here.
Yeah. So talk about your development when you got to high school. You hadn't played a lot of football, not a whole lot.
Basically one season.
Okay. So talk about your development as a player over your high school career. I mean, you got there as a freshman, and obviously, and we'll get to this point, but you developed. I mean, your career really developed as you went through high school. Talk about that.
I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with all the off-season work, all the weightlifting and stuff that we were able to do. Like I say, I was big, but I hadn't touched a weight until ninth grade. I'd never had any formal athletic training whatsoever until that season. So, and that was down at we had the junior high at the time. So ninth grade was down at the junior high. And I remember it'd be 1,000,000 degrees in that gym, trying to work out in that place in the summer. But I think, that led to a lot of development. And just like I say, I was big. And by, later in my junior year and certainly my senior year, I think I was starting to catch up with the growth, starting to catch up with the strength to weight ratios were starting to improve, and my foot speed was better, and that led to some success on football and on the basketball court.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to neglect your academic side, because while you were in high school, not only did you begin to mature as an athlete, but you had a strong academic interest as well. Where did that come from? Your desire for learning and your interest in that?
I mean, I had always been, maybe my Aunt Ann was, worked in Anderson County school systems and was.
She hired me, by the way.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ann McRae hired you.
She sure did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Small
True
world.
story. Yeah.
No, but she, like we were talking about those World Book encyclopedias. She got me an old set of World Book encyclopedias that I'm sure the school system was throwing out. They were a decade out of date or more. And, I read them. I didn't have anything else to do, right?
So you just, from A to Z?
Basically from A to Z. I'd pick up, read stuff. And I enjoyed reading. I always had a, love of reading. And, and that, translated into school. I had a lot of great teachers, all through the Clinton elementary and junior high school. And like it, the one I can really remember, and hope she didn't mind telling this, I'll tell the story on her. Miss Fowler, who taught ninth grade American history, advanced American history. So I signed up for shop. Got into shop. I'm like, I don't know how I got in the shop. I don't know why. I was like, this isn't for me. So like the second or third day of the school year, here they come ushering in this big oof, right, into her classroom, because in her mind, she's like, oh my God, they can't control him in shop and they're sending him here? This is advanced Western Civ. And, I was, set up front and had a great time in class and was very successful in it. She told me that story years later.
So how big were you at that time? How tall were you?
6'4", 215 pounds.
6'4", 215 pounds. So talk a little bit about, as you were growing through your high school years in football, I think, as we discussed earlier, there was a progression for you as you begin to get better, you begin to get stronger, you begin to get bigger. And then by the time you get to your senior year, you're starting to get interest from Division I colleges. Yeah. What was that like, getting recruited like that?
I wasn't that heavily recruited. It was harder to get a hold of people back then. Certainly. We kept a lot of the letters and stuff, and there was always some friction in getting the paperwork to me and whatnot. So who knows what I lost in the translation. But the schools that really recruited me were Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky. And I only went to official visit to Tennessee. I mean, because I had basketball season coming up. Like, what else we're going to do? I mean, you couldn't leave the basketball program and go do an official visit. Now they do, right? Mm-hmm. Or they don't play basketball at all, or whatever the case may be. But, so I did the one official visit. I committed during the Tennessee season. So, like, I went on official visit. I was already committed to go.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So now were you recruited mostly by Coach Donahue? Is that right?
Yeah, Ken Donahue.
Okay.
Marmee, I think may have been Marmee early on, and then it was Ken Donahue recruited me exclusively.
Okay, because I talked to some folks who were around at that time over the last couple of weeks, and they were like, because I think he came to see you at some basketball games too.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he came to see me at a basketball game, and I had an appendectomy, so I wasn't playing.
Well, I talked to some folks that were there when he came, and like you say, it was a different time, but people were sitting in the gym, and they were like, everybody was looking over, and they're like, "Hey, that's Coach Donahue," and it was there was quite a ripple that went through the gym. So
yeah, Coach Donahue was fantastic. I loved him.
Of course, you ended up at the University of Tennessee to continue your football career. What was that like, making the choice, not just for you, but for your family? How did you guys process that together?
It was easy. Kentucky would have been a good spot. I really liked Vanderbilt, but from an academic standpoint, and I thought I wanted to be a physics major at one point when they had a really good physics program. But they, were Vanderbilt in the football side of things. But it really came down to this, if you're 17 miles to the University of Tennessee, you go to your home school, right? And my dad, he effectively retired from truck driving just so he could watch me play high school sports. He videotaped every Clinton football game, every Clinton basketball game.
Wow.
And I have all those tapes, so they're not in very good condition anymore. But we've copied some of them over. But he videotaped all those games. And so, it was a pretty easy decision to come to Tennessee. I mean, it's a great institution.
Yeah.
And I had all the support from home. Like, I literally never did laundry when I was at Tennessee. My dad would come over on Tuesday, watch practice, pick up my laundry, come back on Friday, bring me my laundry clean. Or pick me, if it was during the school year, I came home every weekend from school. The guys would come over, mom would put on the food spread.
Wow. That is a pretty good deal. When you signed and you went to UT, two questions. Did you feel like you were prepared physically for SEC Division I football? And what was that level of competition? How was it different?
Absolutely was prepared right up to the point I got there. I showed up on campus at 283 pounds, and I thought I was in shape. At the end of that first year, I weighed 259 pounds.
Wow.
I was in shape then. I was in really good shape. And that's how much was not necessary to play football that I was carrying around with me at the time. It was an eye opener. And you go into a tackling drill with William Howard. That's a special event. That is something you don't forget.
So, when did you know? And I'm assuming it was pretty early. When did you know that the level of competition had shifted? What you were playing on Friday nights versus what you were playing on Saturday nights.
That first time in the tackling drill with William Howard.
That it was a different world.
I went and hit him. It was like I tried to tackle a fire plug. I mean, that hurt.
I bet you hadn't really experienced a whole lot of that on Friday nights.
No.
I mean, you pretty much dominated the field,
Well, yeah. I mean, nobody could hit me hard enough to, get through the guard.
Right. But that changed.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some pretty good players over there.
That's what
Bruce
I've heard.
Wilkerson.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
It's definitely a different level.
Yeah. And I know when we talked the other day, you were talking about the speed.
Yeah,
everybody's fast.
Every step up, it's the speed is the change, and it's the fact that everybody's fast, right? You've got in high school, if you've got a kid that's running a 5.2 on the line, a scrimmage, they're pretty quick. They're pretty quick offensive linemen, right? Everybody on that Tennessee offensive line is running 5.2 or less, right? All the defensive linemen are running 4.9s and 4.8s and 4.7s. I mean, everybody is fast. The entire game just goes faster.
Yeah. And
everybody's bigger.
So what were some of the lessons you learned like that first season when you were over there? What were some of the things that obviously you played your 4 years there. What were some of the things that hey, I've got to do this differently. I've got to do this better.
It's one of the things I always prided myself in is being in great shape, right? Ken Donahue would tell you that being out of shape makes everybody a coward. If you're tired, you're not going to perform.
That's a good line. I got to write that down. And
so, I always tried to be in really good physical condition. And I wasn't when I got over. I remember this was a funny story. So I went and my dad enrolled me, got me enrolled at UT the summer before my freshman year. So I took English, which wasn't my best subject, and I'm at a pre-calculus class. And then I was able to work out with the team. I show up there and they have a cheerleading camp. And we're on Tom Black track doing 110-yard sprints, getting ready for the season. And lo and behold, there are all the Clinton cheerleaders. And when I mean by all of them, I mean all of them. Like the junior high school, the JV, and the varsity cheerleaders are all there. They find out that I'm there. They decide to cheer me on. I almost ran myself to death that day. I was like, because I've got to lead. I got to do it look good. It was terrible.
That's funny. So while you were there, while you were at UT, who were some of the people that were the biggest influences on you as a player and as a person?
Yeah, so definitely Ken Donahue, and I will tell you that I credit Coach Donahue for really making me, a man and making me a better football player, right? He was a great person, and it was a sad day when he passed, quite a while back. Really, really good human being. And really pushed the training. We did sit-ups. We did monkey. You had a set of monkey bars. Everybody had to do monkey bars to improve grip strength stuff. Really, really great. And then, Coach Fulmer, when Coach Donahue was dismissed from the coaching duties, and I happened to be out because I had destroyed my ankle in a non-football related dormitory incident. That they wanted to switch me over offensive line. And he said, but we're not going to make you do it if you're going to quit. No, we don't want to do that, right? But we think you'd be, he said, I'll make you a millionaire as an offensive lineman.
That's what Coach Donahue said?
No, that's what
Fulmer said.
That's what Coach Fulmer said. It wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
And he really taught me how to play the offensive line and more about the offense and how to be a really great football player.
Well, that was my next question. So when you originally got there, you were on the defensive side of the ball, but you made the switch. What was that change like for you, and which did you prefer?
Well, I prefer to be on the defense. Yeah, I get to make sacks.
Yeah, get to hit somebody.
Caused a couple of fumbles, and got to tackle. Led team in tackles. My first year, first game in Neyland Stadium, led team in tackles.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So what was your defensive position? Defensive end?
I was nose tackle.
Nose tackle. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was actually a freshman All-American at nose tackle.
Really?
Yeah.
And so was it because of the ankle incident that they switched you to the offensive side?
No, because I wasn't Reggie White.
Well, that's a pretty high bar.
I really think Coach Donahue thought he could make me the next Reggie White. There's really only one of him.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
One-on-one. Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I was a good defensive player, right? But I wasn't, I was obviously much better suited for the offensive line. And Tennessee had a habit of doing that. Of getting guys and then switching them. Not Cade Mays. Mays' father, Kevin Mays.
Yeah.
Is one, right? Kevin Simons. There's a long list of former defensive linemen that were successful playing offensive line with Coach Fulmer.
Yeah. So, what were some of the games or moments while you were at UT that stood out to you as an individual? I mean, like, hey, this was a big moment for what reason?
There's obviously there's a lot of them. One that I really remember is, in 1989, and we were terrible in 88, right? That was the year we went 0-6 start.
But you closed strong.
Yeah. But I didn't, I had a busted ankle. So I didn't play hardly any at all the rest of the year. And it was on the offensive side of the ball for that. And we go out and we open the season with UCLA at UCLA. And they're talking all sorts of smack. There's plenty of billboard fodder for them.
Right. And the Rose Bowl was full at that time.
Yeah. And we wasn't full by the end of the game.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, we wore them out. There was about 5,000 fans in the corner of the stadium, and we got all down there and sang Rocky Top, and it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Go down there and start off a great season. We went, I think we went 9-2 that year.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee football was back at that point.
Right.
That was a big memory.
Well, I told you this. This is a text message that Coach Gaylor sent, and he said, let's see, where is it? Oh, here it is. He said, I watched him play many games in Neyland Stadium, but one of my favorite memories was a goal line stand in Lexington. Be sure to ask him about that. And by the way, tell him congratulations on his retired jersey. So what happened at the goal line stand in Lexington?
Yeah, so I'm on defense. I'm playing, nose tackle. Kentucky's got the ball first and goal inside the 3 or 4 yard line, and they literally ran 4 straight plays. I wasn't actually nose guard. I was playing left defensive tackle, so I was on the right guard. They ran 4 straight plays, same play, and couldn't get it in. And I was in on every one of those tackles. The last one, Mike Whitehead, he hit him high, I hit him low, and his helmet came off in the process during the tackle to end the game. And then we were able to, the offense wasn't able to get a first down, but they were able to eat up enough clock to make it a non-issue.
So when people think of football, oftentimes they think of the long pass, the long run what's it like to prevent a win? I mean, when you bow your neck and just said, you can't have these 2 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what's that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great feeling. It's not you're never getting the recognition of a Carl Pickens catching a 80-yard touchdown pass, right? Or Reggie Cobb, breaking at 77 yards. But that's why it's a team, right? Without all the other pieces of the puzzle, those things don't happen. But it's exciting. It's I've had the opportunity a couple times to block some kicks that would have cost us games as well. So that's it's an exciting time.
So obviously playing SEC football at a really high level requires a great deal of time. But you were a good student. How did you balance your academics, athletics while you're at UT? Because I went to UT. I wasn't an athlete like you, but there's a lot of distractions.
I came out of, Carol Pruitt was my physics teacher here in Clinton. And I was real excited about being a physics major when I got to Tennessee. Like that's cool stuff. And I still enjoy it. But it came to find out I didn't have football. And I'd like to blame football for it. Just frankly, I probably wasn't good enough for math to be a physics major. So there was like I thought I was in shape going into. I thought I was ready for high level academics as well. And we reset, and I found some things I were better at. Different kinds of math that I was good for. But it is a balancing act. And I remember one story. It was on Thursday nights or Friday nights. I think it was Thursday nights. It would have been Thursday night. The team would go see a game, and I was a junior, I think, at the time. But the team would all go out to a movie. Or didn't see a game. We'd all go to a movie, and we'd gone to see a movie, and we'd came back, and I had to submit a computer program before midnight, right? And I was going to make it back before the 11 o'clock curfew, right? So I went up to Ayers Hall, sat down in the computer lab, submitted my program, came back. Well, I didn't realize we weren't supposed to go back out after the games. So I got on curfew for a week for skipping. And I had like, look, you can go look at here's the printout of when I submitted it. It's like, it's legit. This is exactly what I did. Didn't matter. But yeah, there was always little balancing acts like that. Yeah. And one of the reasons I didn't probably graduate in computer science was just there wasn't a way to balance the football practices and the computer science schedule because computer scientists can't get up in the morning.
Right.
They stayed up late, and it just didn't fit.
Yeah. So you finished your senior year. Did you know you were going to get drafted as high as you did?
I knew I was going to get drafted. There was talk that if I would have left after my junior year, I would have potentially been a first-round pick. Yeah, man, there was an expectation that, and I was invited to go to New York and be at the draft, but I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be up there in day 2 of that, not drafted and be that guy. But yeah, I had an expectation. I'd worked out for multiple teams, Bill Belichick and, I'm forgetting the name of the coach. It was the head coach at the Cardinals at the time. But there was multiple teams that I worked out. I had, Richard Williamson came up from the Buccaneers and took me to dinner. And so there was a little bit of a recruiting process going with that. I'd gone out to visit the Lions and the Broncos. So yeah, I mean there was quite a bit of chatter about it. So I knew I had a pretty good feeling I was going to go early in the draft, but I didn't know where. honestly.
Well, ultimately, you were drafted 7th in 1991, and your teammate.
8th.
Eighth.
Anton Davis,
you were 7, Davis was 8. And when I was looking this up, now it may have changed, but at that time, that was the first time 2 offensive linemen from the same school had been drafted in the top 10, and it was you guys back to back.
That's correct. I think it's happened one more time since then.
Okay.
And Alvin Harper was 12th, the wide receiver.
Tennessee well represented in that draft.
Yes.
What was draft night like for you? I mean, where were you? Obviously, you weren't in New York.
We were at Uncle Pete's house over on Hines Creek.
So you were here?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had about, there was maybe like 60 people there. Family and friends, and Jimmy Himes was there, the sportscaster here in town.
Yeah.
I think the TV stations were there as well. So that was the environment, and it was just every time there's a pick come up, somebody's looking at you. Every time there's a pick coming up, so funny story.
So you're sitting in this crowd. What's that feel like?
We're sitting in couches and chairs and stuff. Everybody around, there's food and like people are milling around. The TV, it's the TV in front. It's not like a TV like we'd have today. There's a TV,
a tube.
Yeah, and anyways, the Arizona Cardinals picked Eric Swan 6th, and Joe Bugle was the head coach there. And he was a former offensive line coach, and I was convinced. I had convinced in my head that I was going to go to the Cardinals, the 6th pick. So I took that moment then to go and take a biology break. And that's when the phone rang.
So who answered it?
Well, I did. I had the phone with me.
Okay. Oh, it was cordless.
It was a cord. Yeah, we had a cordless phone.
Okay.
Uncle Pete was sophisticated. He had a cordless phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the Buccaneers calling. So that's where I was when I got the phone call.
So how did you sleep that night, knowing that you were going to be an NFL player?
Oh, I don't really remember. I don't recall. It was pretty quick. They shipped me down there for the press tour and the shaking of hands and so forth. And I remember getting off that plane. It was 4:00 in the afternoon. If anybody's been to Tampa at 4:00 in the afternoon, there was a thunderstorm that just ended 5 minutes earlier. And it's like you cut the air with a knife. It's super humid and hot. I'm like, whoo, this is like a jungle.
Yeah.
Great times though.
So, given the fact that very few of us will have the opportunity to ever have that experience, talk briefly what it's like to be an NFL player, because a lot of us see it and think, man, you see that spectacular, that famous, that rock star kind of, is it always like that?
Well, I will say that 1991 is not 2025. I would say the rock star status has changed. The money has changed pretty dramatically as well. But I think at the end of the day, it's still a job, and you've got men there doing a job that have a team that's supporting them. That many of them are married. You've got guys that have been doing this for a decade. They're married. They've got 3 or 4 kids running around. Right? This is a career. This is the job. They take it seriously, and it's definitely, Tennessee was a game, right? Was it important? Was it a job? To some degree, yes, it was, but it was still amateur athletes playing a game, right? When you get to the NFL, and I'm assuming this is the same with baseball and basketball and so forth, it is no longer a game. It is a job, and you get all of the things that come with that. There's union labor challenges. There's people putting in different levels of effort. There's time constraints. Like you're there in that facility during the season all day long, like from 6:30 in the morning with workouts and treatment and so forth, to meetings and everything, to practice at the end, and then post-practice, you watch the film from the practice right then. And so you're there literally 12, 13, 14 hours a day. So it's a huge transition for family life too, because you go from 7, literally other than Tuesday's the day off, 7 days a week, you're not around. Like the family can't travel to away games. It's ridiculous because 1 hour after the end of that game, I'm on a bus to a plane to come straight back home with no, charter flight. like if spouses were attending the games, we wouldn't see them the next day. So families didn't travel frequently. It was, it's difficult for that family. And then you go from no contact whatsoever with the family to, season ends, and now you're home all the time. Like now your job is 3 hours a day.
Right.
It's a transition. And then you go flip that switch in July, and it's right back to don't see anybody anymore. Like you go cold turkey because you have 5 weeks of camp.
Right.
It's tough.
Yeah. So while you played for the Buccaneers for 5 years, I believe,
Yes.
and then for Oakland for
one year.
Okay.
1 year in Oakland.
So during your career, and by the way, that's actually more than the average length of time for a lineman.
It's average. The average NFL career is about 3 years.
Yeah. So you doubled the average.
Yeah.
So while you were in the league, who were some of the toughest matchups for you, and why?
Yeah, some of the Sam. Who's the defensive lineman up in Seattle? Was Sam something? I can't remember. Sam Adams was. Yeah. I mean, he was a strong, tough player to go against. I had Cornelius Bennett one game. Managed to dodge Reggie White for the majority of my career.
Okay, I was going to ask you if you ever had to face Reggie. That's a break.
The one guy that gave me the most trouble was a guy named Bryce Popp out of Green Bay. Not an all-star name or Hall of Fame guy, but just for whatever reason, I had difficulty blocking him on pass plays.
So, did you ever have a game where you were playing with Reggie?
Oh yeah. I've played against Reggie, but first game, my rookie year, I had pulled my hamstring, so I was out. The next year we played them, he was out. And then he went to Green Bay, and I think it was just my last year he was at Green Bay because we didn't play Philly every year.
Yeah. I think I told you when I interviewed you earlier, several years ago, I had a trip to Cleveland.
Oh yeah.
And I was coming back home, and I just stopped in Canton and went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And you walk in, if you've ever been there, you go through that art display that's in the front, and then you go into the building proper. And the first display that they had out, there were 3 jerseys in it. One of them was Reggie White's because that's the year that he had recently set the sack record.
Right.
So his jersey was in there. They had Peyton Manning's Bronco jersey because that was the year that he had set 52, whatever, the touchdown passes. And then the other one was Tony Gonzalez because he had set the record for touchdown receptions for a tight end that year. But the very first display had
two Vols.
Yeah, 2 former Vols. And it was like, of course, I had a Tennessee hat on when I went through there, and I was like, just kind of looking around, see if anybody noticed. It was like, so as a player, as a former Vol player, how does that impact you when because you're not. I was a student there, yes, and I sat in Neyland Stadium many times, and have since then, but I never played. I mean, do you feel like when these other players have this success, do you feel a kinship to that at all? Or
I do, and Reggie White was, I'd go with recruiting business, and J. Paul Sanders here locally, was close with Reggie, and so we'd go watch the games, and I get to see Reggie White in the locker room and stuff. So I got to spend some time with him, and he came to an event here in Clinton as well once. So I got to spend time with him when he was still playing at Tennessee.
Okay.
And he's everything, everything everybody says about him. He was a powerful force.
Yeah.
On and off the field.
When I was going to grad school, true story, and this you won't recognize this because you're much bigger than I am, but it was back in the day when you had to get your books out of the card catalog and write your numbers down on the card and go up to the stacks and get them.
I've done that.
Okay. Well, I go to the elevator and I push my floor and I'm looking through my my note cards, and the elevator door opens and I look up and I'm staring into the stomach of this large black leather jacket, and my head just kept going up, and I looked up and he was looking down at me, and I know what you mean, because I didn't plan to say this, but just out of my mouth, I just looked up and I said, "Man, you're big." And he just started laughing, and he shook my hand, and it just disappeared.
Yeah.
My hand was
Randy
gone.
White?
And yeah. And he was wearing, this big black leather jacket, and he just occupied space. I mean, like, he just took up space everywhere. But super nice guy. Shook my hand, introduced himself as if I didn't know, and just a great guy. And that was the only time I ever met him. Just me and him. He was getting off the elevator, and I was getting on it, and there was no one else around, and he didn't have to say anything to me. I mean, but he was nice.
He would have, because that's just the kind of guy he was.
Yeah, super nice guy. So let me ask you this. Is it possible to play in the NFL and it not take a punishing toll on your body?
Maybe if you're a kicker. No, I think it takes some toll, and it's different. It's different for different people, right? And I think many of us are predisposed to different kinds of injuries, But yeah, it's a punishing sport. My wife likes to joke that when your employment benefits package includes free replacement parts for life, you might want to rethink that one.
So which part was harder, the physical part of the NFL or the mental part for you?
Learning the plays and all that piece of it, that was I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing all of the pressure component of it. The learning the plays and stuff is not that hard. I mean, it's once you've got it mastered, it's there's a lot of similarities as you go through the different levels. It's it's a lot of the same repeated. Mm-hmm. There's more complexity with the more time you're able to put in. The more time defenses are able to put in preparing, the more complex things get for the offense to react to, and vice versa. But it's still a lot of the same ideas.
Right. What's some of your fondest memories of your time in football? UT, the NFL. What are things that when you think back, is it because you hear guys say all the time, it's not really what happened on the field as much, it's the camaraderie, it's a lot. Is that that the same?
A lot of camaraderie. Like we would wrestle around and horse around at the Raiders. Like that's an example of like just the shenanigans we would play on each other and like literally have, it was like WWE in that locker room at times. It was a lot of fun. The times where you're down, like we're playing in the Sugar Bowl in 1991 against Virginia, and we're down, but there wasn't any doubt in anybody on that offensive mind that we were going to be able to score and and win that game. Mm. There was no doubt at all, and we did exactly do that. Mm. Those are the things, and then there's always plays or series of plays. That beating against Florida that we put on Florida
in the rain.
Dale Carter, might have gotten executed for fielding that ball on the 9-yard line over his head as it's about to go out of bounds. Let's be clear, until he ran it all the way back. The game that I remember a lot is playing Auburn and blocking a field goal attempt. And then not long after that, it was the Reggie Cobb's 77-yard run. Mm. Those are some of my real fond memories.
Is that when, as an offensive lineman, when you open the hole, or you're part of opening the hole, or giving the quarterback the needed time and the receivers to get, is that a satisfying feeling when you're the ones that opens that hole, or you're the one that provides that time?
It's the satisfying one's pancakes when you can when you can drive somebody and put them flat on their back.
Yeah,
that's fun, right? That's the closest we get to having a sack. Yeah, you just block somebody. That's kind of the job. Like there's no real excitement in pass blocking.
Right.
Only bad things can happen there.
So you finished your last year in the NFL at Oakland, and it was a hand injury, right? Was that what?
No. So I could have continued playing. I had to get my knee scoped. Mm-hmm. And before I'd gone to play in Oakland, I had noticed knee was it? left knee. I noticed a growth on the medial side of the knee, and I went and talked with Bill Yeomans.
Yeah.
Right. And because I was like, hey, this popped up pretty quick, and I'm like, is this cancer or something, right? I was, and I talked with him and said, no, here's what that is. It's a growth, and it shows that you got a lot of degenerative changes in that knee. You really shouldn't play football. Like, okay, what does he know? He's only been doing this for 30 years. He's got a medical degree and a fellowship and all that stuff. So whatever. So I went and played, and my knee by the end of that year was pretty bad. So I came back and got it cleaned out and stuff, and was back to full strength. Right, I was working. I was doing all my rehab at UT, and could the Cybex machine and stuff. I could crush that thing. I had plenty of strength. But 2 days of working out, it would swell up. 3 days of working out, it just wouldn't take the pound anymore. I was like, I saw at Oakland, I saw them inject people and do a bunch of stuff. I never was injected for, an injury or anything. And there was one guy there, was Trey Jenkins, who had been playing. This was his 10th or 12th year tackle out of UCLA. And I mean, this guy was, I'm sure he's in a lot of pain today. Right. And, I had a baby on the way. Like, I want to be able to play with my kids. And that really was the decision. Like, there's other things for me to do other than football. Football had never been, everything for me. It's been a lot for me, but it wasn't my identity. Mm-hmm. And so, I wanted to be able to, be there for my kids and be able to participate with grandbabies one day. And so that was really the decision for me.
So your NFL career comes to an end. You go back to Tennessee, come back to University of Tennessee, and continue your education. Talk a little bit about that and what motivated you to do that.
Yeah, so originally, one of the other people I'd worked with a lot at UT was a guy named Richard Westbrook, who was my academic advisor in the Office of Student Life, and he was fantastic mentor for me, and helped guide class picking and so forth. Became a really good friend. So he and I started a little business where we did in web development, internet design, and networking, and he did graphic design work, and so we were doing that. And eventually, we got out of that business, and I went to work for a .com up in New Hampshire, and which was great. I was really enjoying it. I was, getting to use some of my technical skills, and I was like literally pitching deals to CBS. And I never had business class, like not one. And I'm helping to run the sales organization, and we got some venture capital funding, and our CEO completely changed everything we were doing. And I could tell you instinctually, I knew it wasn't going to work, right? But I couldn't tell you how to fix it. Nothing's worse than somebody's coming to say, hey, this doesn't work. And if you say that, you need to have an idea how to fix it, right? You can't just give problems. Everybody's got problems. Right. Everybody can come up with a problem. You need to come up with answers. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to communicate it, right? I was like, I like this business thing. I probably ought to do it better. So left them in October of 2000, entered us back to UT and did the whole undergraduate business core in a semester and a half. So I did statistics, accounting 1 and 2, finance. So
school was a full-time job for that period of time.
I was and did all that, and then went into the MBA program, and I did the full-time MBA. And I graduated 7 or 8 days before my old company filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Like, shut the doors, gone. Now, by the time I got out, I could have told you how to fix it. Right. I could have communicated it. It was a little late then.
Yeah.
But that's really what got me into the business world in a real way.
Yeah. What skills did you, if any, learn from football that translated into business?
Preparation, being competitive. You've got to want it. right? You've got to want to do more. You've got to be willing to put in the time and effort to make it happen. It's become increasingly easier and easier to become distracted, to lose focus, and you have to keep that. There's got to be times to have fun and play. You got to build a team, right? And that's the other piece of it too. Is an individual contributor can only go so far. You can't do it all yourself, right? You have to lead people. You have to get the best out of them. If you want to have, bigger scope of control and more influence and more impact, you have to be able to lead people. And that's not something they really teach in an MBA program either. It really comes from experience.
Mm-hmm. So what inspired you to pursue business? I mean, it's a pretty, in a highly technical field like, medical technology and healthcare, which is kind of what you spent a lot of time doing. I mean, what moved you in that direction?
Fortunate, really. I knew a couple of the radiologists here at Vista Radiology. Jeff Resch, Glenn Young, just from interactions with kids and so forth, and they were in need of somebody. They were doing a search to have to bring their management in house. I had a MBA, and they took a chance on me, and I went and basically learned how to do it.
It was on the job training for you.
There was some on the job training there, and then there were some struggles with the billing operations that they had before I arrived had transitioned to. So 5 months into that job, I started a billing company with the doctors to take control of their revenue cycle operations, and we kept it together. We got it turned around, and it's thriving practice.
Well, one of the things that I know Coach Taylor told me about you, he just said, I asked him, I said, what do you think about him? And he just said how much he admired your work ethic and how much he admired all that you've accomplished by, just hard work. I mean, like, he's like, and he told me, he said, when he was younger, he was a player, and he was these things. He said, but now I just respect him as a man to all that he's accomplished outside of, even more so past football. And I think that those were some of the qualities that I heard about stick-to-itiveness, hardworking, willing to do what was necessary, but I also heard that about football, those things. So it seems like that's a translatable skill.
No, that is a translatable skill. The teamwork piece is a translatable skill, and that's, I think, one of the pieces that one of the traits that best you best need in the business world. Mm-hmm. Is to be able to lead people, to be able to work with people, to be able to share, be able to make sure that the people that are responsible for the success get that attention, get that recognition. And if somebody's not doing what they need to do, you don't have that recognition. You have a private conversation on those things. You try to coach and develop and change in that way.
Praise in public, correct in private.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does success mean to you in business versus sports, and how are they different or similar?
In sports, you've got winners and losers, right? The game is I win, you lose. That can be the game in business, right? But it's not the way really business works. In business, if you want to be the most successful you can be, then you've got competitors, right, that you're trying to do better than, right? But if you and I are doing business together, it can't be I win, you lose, right? Because your choice is to not do business with me and not lose.
Correct.
Right? What you really have to focus on is how can we both win better, right? How do we split a bigger pie? What is your net upside, what's my net upside alone, and what is it together? Mm-hmm. And finding a way to find commonality there. And it's not 50-50, right? But it's some combination thereof that recognizes what you bring to the table, what I bring to the table, and how we can do better together. That's how you're successful.
The win-win.
The win-win.
Yeah. So as you reflect back over your life thus far, at all the things you've succeeded in, of all the things you've achieved, what are some things that you would share with others who are striving, for their particular goal, whatever their challenge is, or what are some things that you've learned that you think others could benefit from?
The academics piece is vitally important. Being able to, carry a conversation, to be able to be in the room and have the discussion, to understand what's going on. All that comes from all this foundational knowledge we're getting through school, right? And if you're fortunate enough to go on and get go on to higher academics and get more knowledge or very specific knowledge, that's vitally important. Mm-hmm. But even just the basic information to allow us to make changes and understand, because this world is about to really make some dramatic changes, and we need people that can think, that can understand what changes are happening, and make up their mind from a lot of different perspectives and facts. We use air quotes for facts sometimes, that are being thrown around. And we need people that can look at those details and determine what they believe and what they think is right.
So, of all the things you've done from athletics, I mean, you're the only person in this community that's ever been drafted in the first round of anything, and of a professional sport. You've had businesses, you've created them, you've sold them, you've got, you've had positions. What are you most proud of? What are the things that you've done? You've lived quite a life. What are the things that you're most proud of?
I'll be honest with you. I'm proud of the family, right? That's the most important thing. It's, one of the reasons frankly, I got into doing, business after football was over was so I could be an example for my children. And
you have quite a few of those.
I have a couple of those. That is, trying to be a provider, trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good example and role model and coach for my kids, is really, what I'm most proud of. And like if we sitting down and talking, and I'm the guy that pulls out the phone and starts showing you pictures.
Right.
And they're all fantastic. They're great.
You have 7 kids, right?
Seven children, 30 to 8. 30
to 8. Wow. That's quite and they're doing different things. So you're still going to little league games, and you got graduations at college on the other end.
I will not be able to attend the Tennessee football game because I've got a baseball tournament, I've got a football game, and I've got a volleyball tournament all this weekend.
So, and I know you're still working with the NFL
Alumni Association.
Yes. Now, are you an office holder?
I'm a board member. I'm on the board
okay.
of directors for the national organization. So, and we actually have a board meeting coming up next week.
So you're still involved in that?
Yes.
You've got irons in the fire.
I've got a couple irons in the fire.
Who are some of the people? One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was this idea of who influences the influencer. I don't really believe that this idea that anybody really grabs themselves up by the bootstraps and pull. There's always someone that mentors them. And you've mentioned some, and Coach Donahue and some of your teachers, Susan Fowler. Who are some of those people that have influenced you as a business leader?
I want to bring up one other coach, by the way, before we get Mike Engel. Was I think a lot of Mike. He was coach at Clinton. He was also the chemistry teacher. A lot of respect for him. He was another one that until I met Carol Pruitt, I was wanting to be a chemistry major
Mm-hmm.
as well. But and that's one. But from a business standpoint, yeah, there's always the one leader that I think has probably made the biggest impact for me is a guy named Anthony Gabriel, and he was my boss at Radiology Partners, and we had a transaction. Radiology Partners bought the radiology group in Columbus, Ohio, and that was really successful. And I was doing a lot of things with Rad Partners as their regional vice president, but I hadn't given up doing all the things myself too, right? And I had to sit down with him. I was like, listen, I'm not doing well. This is not working, right? We need to talk about it. And he sat me down. We first cleared some of my plate of some of the stuff I was doing nationally, but really learned then and really worked with him and with a executive coach, a guy named Matt Oren, on how to lead people better. Like I had a habit of just doing a lot of things. Like I can do an Excel spreadsheet better than anybody. Like I'm sure there's people out there. Nobody's ever the best, right? But I'm really good at it. Like I wrote a spreadsheet one time to solve Sudoku puzzles for fun. But like one of the things came out of this is I don't make spreadsheets anymore. Like it's not something I do at work. Like I had to work with people to lead them, and then allow them, trust them to do great work, and advise them when they needed it. Teach them when it was necessary. And that's what really unlocked my ability to have more influence and more scale. And I'm very appreciative for that bit of knowledge and that help and a willingness to stop and work with me.
Mm-hmm. This is a question that I ask a lot of folks who've been on our show, and it's funny because I saved this one to near the end because everybody thinks this is the hardest one. So I'm going to give it to you. If you could step into a time machine and travel back in time to Clinton High School and you run into a 17, 18-year-old Charles McRae, and you know what this life is going to be, he doesn't. What are you saying to him?
I'm glad you've asked that because this is what I would tell him. The thing that I have learned over time that I had people tell me this, didn't really understand it, about networking, right? I would tell that everybody, like every time you're meeting with somebody, it's a job interview, right? You need to know their names. You need to get their contact information, right? You need to send thank you notes or thank you emails or tweet them. I don't know what you want to do, right? Or Snapchat them or whatever. Instagram, that's the new one.
Right.
But you need connections, right? And the thing we're going to, that human connection is so easily lost in this digital world. And with the advent of AI, it's going to get worse fast, right? You need to have those connections. You need to have that networking because somebody out there is going to need something, and you need to be ready for when they need something, mm-hmm. right? The first time, like I can't call you up after not talking to you for 15 years and ask for something, right? You've got to be there for them if you want them to be there for you,
right?
So networking is vitally important. I did not understand that. 17-year-old, 28-year-old Charles didn't know that.
I think it's interesting to hear you say that because so many things come down to relationships. Yeah. And I think you, in the course of this interview, you met this person and this came out of it, or you met that person or this person. And because of that relationship, opportunities were created for you or vice versa, the other person. And my dad, when I was young, my dad told me, he said, always be mindful of how you treat people on your way up because you'll meet the same ones on your way down and they'll remember how you treated them. Yeah. And I found that to be true. It's no matter what, I'm a school principal. I mean, that's my day job. And, there's so much that I can't do, and we have such a good staff at my school, and it's reassuring for me to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Because that is my experience as well. I mean, we have such good people. We have a guy at our school. He can just make technology hum. I cannot. But I can do other things when I go up and say, hey, Charlie, this is what I need. Can you do this? Sure. And he just like hammers away for a second and he sends it to me.
Yeah.
And then all the information that I wanted to gather, I now have it. And we make better decisions because of his skills. And the whole school wins. The kids win, the staff wins, the parents win because he was able to use his skill. And that is a hard thing to learn, I think, sometimes as we grow.
And then recognize those people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What's next for you? What are goals? I mean, because I can tell from talking to you on the phone the other day. I mean, you've got other things. You're looking down the road. What's next?
I think there's more for me in the the healthcare space. Still pursuing that. So at some point that will. I've got my accreditation as a certified director, corporate director. So looking to do more board work as well, so I can be out there and share and mentor and give back to like I've gotten from so many other people, and to be able to share that, and then still, like I said, I'll be chasing rugrats for quite a while.
Yeah, I would think that we would see you at a ball field somewhere around our area.
You could about find me one at Saturday for sure.
Charles, I can't thank you enough for coming this way. I mean, I know you live in Maryville these days, and this was kind of I know you got a lot of things going on, and I really appreciate you making the time to come to Clinton and meet with us. And congratulations on the jersey retirement. That was a big deal, and I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I just appreciate you making time to come to Clinton to meet with us.
Well, Darren, I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it, and thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely. That'll do it for our September episode of ACTV Storytellers. Tune in October when we'll have a new guest and someone else to share their stories. Again, if you would like to email me a person you want us to chat with, or Ryan Sutton, you can get Ryan at rsutton@acs.ac. You can get me at dleach@acs.ac. And I'd like to personally thank Coach Alvin Taylor and also Principal Robbie Harold for giving us the information from Clinton High School on Charles. Once again, thank you very much, and we'll see you in October.